morning, students, and happy Thursday. So today we're doing, again, solving equations, solving for variables, but this time we're doing multiplication. And in my opinion, multiplication is quite fun. It looks hard, but you'll see it's very easy. So I want you to follow the directions after your review exercises and speed drills. And here in the middle it says when a number is written right beside a variable, this means to multiply. So very simple. You will not see a multiplication symbol in these equations. Once the number is written right next to the letter or variable, that means you'll know right away that means to multiply. So in this case, if you see 3n equals 15, you're going to know that that means 3 times n equals 15, and then you'll have to figure out what n means. And because 3 times 5 equals 15, that means n equals 5. So just the same process we've been doing with addition and subtraction, except now we're multiplying. The only trick is it doesn't give you a multiplication symbol, but that's okay, we don't need it. So here, 5n equals 20. Because the number is right next to the letter, you know that 5 times n equals 20, and then you just have to determine what number times 5 gives you 20. In this case, it's 4, so that means n means 4. N equals 4. So let's do the first sample just to make sure. Here we have 2n equals 12, and I strongly recommend that you write out the process so that you don't miss any steps. So we know that there is an imaginary multiplication symbol in between the 2 and the n. You can look at it that way. So 2 times n equals 12. So you have to think to yourself, what number times 2 equals 12? And I'm sure everyone will get 6, so 2 times 6 equals 12. So what did n represent? N represented 6. So we would write n equals 6. And for our second sample, and then you will do 1 through 10 on your own, we have 3n equals 24, which means 3 times n equals 24. And what number times 3 equals 24? So hopefully everyone gets 8. 3 times 8 equals 24. So that means that n means 8. N equals 8. So just remember, I know I've been saying it quite a bit, don't just give me the number, make sure that you're writing the full solution, including the variable. So whatever the letter is, it looks like on this page, it's all n. So it should be n equals 6, n equals 8, and so on. So here for Thursday, we actually have 2 sheets because we're going to be doing a little bit of practice work. So this one's called Practicing the Final 3. So what you're doing is continuing to practice prepositional phrases. You're going to place parentheses around each prepositional phrase, which we're used to. You find the preposition and then put parentheses around the entire phrase. And then write in the blank the verb or noun that it modifies. So you find the verb, the noun, usually if it's a noun, it's an object, and then you write it here. So here for number 1 says, the farmer cut the wheat with a reaper. So first we're going to put the parentheses with a reaper. And then the verb or noun it modifies with a what? Reaper, which is a noun in this case. And that's what you're going to do for numbers 2 through 15. Parentheses, and then write the verb or noun. Parentheses, and then write the verb or noun. So here for think B on the bottom, again, parentheses around the prepositional phrases. It's practice. And then circle your conjunction. So remember, if you have a hard time remembering which the conjunctions are, here on page 126, they are at the top. So that's why I recommended that you underline or highlight them, because you can go back and see which ones should be circled. And then underline the interjections. So we know those interjections are usually those separate words that come before a sentence that give a little bit of emphasis. And then you will place a comma or an exclamation point, depending on whether the word after it is capitalized or not. So it seems like a lot of steps, but we've learned all of these this week. So from Monday through Wednesday, we've done all of this. So you can flip back to your previous pages, rewatch the videos from Monday through Wednesday. But I'm going to do number 1 just to show you that if you take it slow and do it step by step, it's not hard at all. So first, place parentheses around each prepositional phrase. Okay, so number 1 is a little long, but that's okay. We stopped by his home, but he had already left. So by his home. Okay, then I'm going to circle the conjunction. Here we have the conjunction but. And then underline each interjection and place a comma or an exclamation point after it. So let's see where we have our interjections here. And number 1 doesn't have an interjection. So notice there is no oh or behold or wow. So we don't need to. And that means we don't need to place a comma or exclamation point either. So they don't all have those interjections, but some of them do. Now for page 129, because we're continuing with practice. So here for Think See, it wants you to answer questions about the following limerick. It says on notebook paper, but if you have small enough handwriting, you don't have to. But here it says, answer these questions about a limerick. What is a limerick? If you've never heard that word before, it means a poem that has this rhyming scheme, where the first 2 lines rhyme, and then the third and fourth lines rhyme, and then the 5th line rhymes with the first 2. So that's why I wrote A, B, B, and then A again, because these 3 lines with A rhyme, and then there's 2 here that are shorter and also rhyme, and it gives this kind of rhyming poem that usually tends to be funny, sometimes rude. In this case, it's funny. I'm going to read it for you so you kind of get the way they should be read, and then you can answer questions about it. So it says, there was a young lady from Niger who went out for a ride on a tiger. They came back from the ride with the lady inside and a smile on the face of the tiger. So you can probably imagine why the tiger's smiling. Pretty funny. But either way, it wants you to answer a few questions about it. And for number 1, you're going to answer, what is the prepositional phrase in line 1? What is its job? So anytime you see what is its job, it pretty much just wants to tell you what kind of words or word it is. So if it says for number 2, what is the job of out? Then you can write what kind of word is out. How many prepositional phrases are there in lines 2 and 3? So that's easy. Once you identify them, just say how many. What is the job of inside? So what kind of word is inside? And then what is the job of the last prepositional phrase? So reading it on the very last, be as creative or as detailed as you want. What was the job of that phrase? So then on Think D, you're going to read these proverbs. Some of them may contain prepositional phrases, some of them may not. If they do, you're going to put parentheses around the prepositional phrase and then write, is it taking the place of an adjective or is it taking the place of an adverb? And remember that an adjective is a describing word. So if the phrase is describing the sentence, you can probably assume it's an adjective, but remember that we did go over this last week, so you can flip back in your book to get some hints. But if there is no prepositional phrase in the proverb, then you just write none because there isn't any. And then here for go back, listen carefully because I'm only going to have you do step 1. It says to underline the subjects once and the verbs twice in just these sentences 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, and 14. Then it says to diagram them, but because you've done so much diagramming this week, you don't have to. Just go back and underline the subjects once and verbs twice in the designated sentences. And here for your last page for spelling for the week, we have a proofreading exercise. So that means that you have to read this journal entry, and then using the key as we've done a few times this year, you're going to proofread and use these marks to correct or at least identify the errors. So circle is used for circling spelling words that are not spelled correctly. And anytime that you find a word that is not spelled correctly, you're going to write it down here. And there are 9 of them. Then, if there's a letter that should be capitalized but isn't, like at the beginning of a sentence, for example, you will draw 3 little lines under the letter that should be capitalized. If there is a sentence that doesn't end with a period but it should, you're going to add it and then circle it. If there is an extra word that shouldn't be there, you're going to squiggle it to delete it. If there's a sentence missing a word, you're going to draw a tiny arrow and add the word. If there's a letter capitalized that should not be capitalized, then you will put a slash through it to make it small. And then if there is a new idea but does not have an indentation like this, you are going to write this little paragraph symbol. So if you notice that the story, or in this case the journal entry, went on to a new idea but did not indent, then you write this. And usually there's only one, sometimes not even any of those, but definitely look out for it.